Welcome everyone to a new mini-series on topics in Leil Haseder. I'm Eli Weber. This is the well-known Jewish educator Rachel Weber Leshaw, who happens to be my daughter, which is helpful when we talk about family history and ideas from our Seder. Something unique about our family, we didn't make a Seder for our own Seder for 18 years. My father-in-law, Zichron Livracha, was a rabbi in Montreal. We went away every single Seder. When he passed away, we thought it was time for us to make our own Seder. And because we'd never done so before, we were able to revisit ideas and to decide how we wanted our Seder to look. How old were you at the time?
So I was a senior in high school and been doing Leil Haseder with my grandparents every year. Abba says, we're doing something different. We're doing the Seder in the living room. Why? Well, normally, Haseiva at the Seder for modern Jews means you stick a pillow on your dining room chair, and then you kind of lean awkwardly to the left as you drink. And you kind of wonder, why are we doing this? And we remember, it's one of the questions in the Manishtana. We do Haseiva at the Seder sort of as a performative act. Alba said we're doing it differently.
Which is why the Rabbi says we don't do Haseiva anymore.
Because it's silly.
No one does Haseiva. And I remember I read an article from Yoel Ben Nun many years before, in which he said, of course, the Rabbi was right. Nobody invites guests over and puts a pillow at their dining room table and leans to the left. That's not a Haseiva. But he said, what do you do when you invite guests over? You sit in the living room and you relax and you lean back. And it struck me that was, a good idea.
So that's exactly what we did. We set up the living room with the couches and the armchairs. I think we brought in a beanbag or two, and we all sat around so that we could do Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. What that also means that's different, though, is that to do Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, you need matzah umar munachim lefanecha. You need your Seder plate with all of your materials. But you don't have a big table, so you got to have little tables.
So we had a little table, and I remember I had a little table in front of me with the matzah and the Seder plate on it. And the idea was for my sons, who were older at the time, not Rachel's the oldest, but they were older at the time, they would move the table in accordance with the halacha. V'kachava.
And so right after halach ma'anya, the Haggadah says, you move the matzah. So the boys get up and they pick up the table and they move it. My littlest sister, who was, I think, 7 at the time, goes, why are you moving the table? Which was an amazing question.
She said, we didn't eat yet.
Right.
She said, we didn't eat yet. Which is the Gemara, right? Patarton milomar manishtana. It was the greatest moment ever, because that's exactly the point. You don't have to say manishtana if somebody naturally, comments on the fact that what you've done doesn't make any sense.
It's actually great because in the Gemara we know who the characters are, right? Abaye was a kid who grew up in the house of his uncle Rabba. And when Abaye was a kid, they were having Leil Haseder, if you can imagine what a cool Leil Haseder that is. But Abaye is a kid, so he doesn't know all the shtick, right? And they move the table, and Abaye says, hey, why are you moving the table, right? And Rabba says, we don't even need manishtana, let's just jump into avadim hayinu. The reason we do weird things is because we were slaves. So we tried to then jump into avadim hayinu, and then rewound, because for tradition, you gotta do your manishtana.
Right, so all this, of course, is based in halacha. And there are 2 basic approaches to Haseiva at the Seder. One is, it's a kiyum in achilas matzah, it's a kiyum in dalit kosos, it's a kiyum in the things that you eat, in which case doing your Seder in the living room would not make that much sense. But there's a Rambam, and the Rambam says in Perek Zayin of Hilchos Chametz U'Matzah, Lefikach, kishesoed adam b'layla hazeh, Sarich le'achol v'lishtot v'hu meisev derech cherut. Says the Rambam, it's not really, I think the Rambam says it, although later on he then says, what parts do you need Haseiva for? But the Griz makes a big deal out of this. The Griz says, the Rambam thinks it's true. Maybe Haseiva is ma'akev for the Dalit Kosos and for Matzah and for Korech, but he thinks there's a kiyum in Haseiva for the whole meal, for the whole Seder, for all of Magid. And that's really something you get if you do your Seder in the living room, and also for kids.
Yeah, it's all. First of all, I'll just say it's also a really good kiyum in Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, right? It's a really great way to tell a story when you're sitting around in the living room, being able to feel like you're talking to each other. Yes, we use the text of the Haggadah, but you get to talk it's also fun for the kids. They notice that there's something different. And I think that this sort of ties into this general question of kids at the Seder and doing things so they'll ask. Maybe not everybody's going to do their Seder in their living room, but the idea that there's something at Leil Haseder that's different, that we do that's different, that maybe like you didn't learn about in school, maybe something that your kids don't already have in the workbook that they wrote about the Seder, right? Do something that's a little bit different, mix things up so that we can say this is what we do, because Leil Haseder is different. It's the night we left Mitzrayim, and we do these special things.
And nobody's claiming you have to have a Seder in the living room. I know for a lot of people, including me at some point, it's bizarre and, But Lamaisa, if you want to try it, it's certainly not ma'akev, but if you want to try it, it's exciting for the kids. And on some level, it's exciting for us also. But that's it for now. Yashka.
See you soon.